Good morning. I'm Lisa Bottoms, Executive Director of NAMC Northern Ohio Chapter, and I will be your MC for today's event. We are so excited that you joined us for our fourth Level Up session. Do you know your numbers? I want to thank our platinum sponsors for today's session, Next Generation Construction and First Energy Foundation. Low Key Entertainment is providing the technical assistance for this program. Today we will define what knowing your number means and why it is important. And we will have an esteemed panel to discuss strategies on knowing your numbers. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about NAMC. NAMC stands for the National Association of Minority Contractors, and NAMC is the oldest minority construction trade association in the United States. NAMC Northern Ohio is one of 21 chapters. Our main objective is to bring diversity and inclusion to the forefront of the construction industry in Cleveland, Toledo, Akron, Canton, Youngstown, and Warren. NAMC Northern Ohio's mission is to provide access to opportunities, advocacy, and constructor development training. NAMC NOC works in collaboration with our corporate, community, and public partners. So please consider joining NAMC Northern Ohio Chapter to get information on the latest construction jobs, training, and advocacy positions that impact minority businesses. We'd like to recognize our corporate partner members, Turner Construction, Gilbane, Metro Health, Whiting Turner, Key Bank, and First National Bank. We are also looking for additional corporate partners as well as corporate sponsorships. Please consider sponsoring NAMC Northern Ohio Chapter. You allow us to provide additional programming and to support our members and community. NAMC Level Up program is one of our 4 core programs that assists members, both union and non-union, with building capacity. Each NAMC Northern Ohio Chapter board member is responsible for planning a Level Up session. Today's session, Do You Know Your Numbers, was created by Shakora Davis, President of Next Generation Construction, a growing and diverse general contractor specializing in carpentry and labor services, general contracting services, and construction management services. Next Gen Construction currently is involved in projects at University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic, Cleveland Metropolitan School District, Metro Health Facilities, and the City of Cleveland. Shakori is also a board member of NAMC and Vice President of CAA. Shakori, or Shaq as we like to call him, serves as the Executive Board Member for the NAMC Northern Ohio Chapter, as well as serving as a community leader on multiple boards. The purpose of today's event is to understand what it means to know your numbers. Why is it important, and what strategies that minority businesses can implement to understand that very important barometer on the profit of your company. So let's get started. Welcome, Shaq.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
So Shaq, tell me, why did you pick Do You Know Your Numbers, and why is that important to you?
Well, the reason I chose this topic was because I am an estimator by heart, so I'm very fond of numbers. I think that numbers kind of set the foundation of every project. It's the ultimate equalizer, and probably the biggest reason is because I believe my 4th project in, I fail hard because I didn't create my own numbers. So I was a carpenter going into the field, and as a carpenter, I didn't know and understand how the office aspect, I was an arrogant carpenter too. I was very weird, So I just thought that I could take my show into the world and make it happen, and I failed, and I lost a lot of money because I didn't create my own numbers. I didn't even understand my own numbers. Someone gave me those numbers. So I took it upon myself after that to make sure that I learned my numbers, and it has made all the difference. It allows me to kind of project the future of my company and become a great leader. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
And so I think what you're telling me is that there are certain strategies that we need to think about when considering estimating and understanding our numbers and how you would like for that to play out.
Definitely.
I see that you have some slides to show us. Can you tell me what's on your slides and help me make sense of the numbers?
Understood. So, first thing, if you don't mind me saying, I do want to say that, any contractors out there who are independent contractors, I think NAMC is a great organization to come to learn. I mean, we all can learn from each other, and it's all about scaling. In 2022, I think the amount of work in Northeast Ohio and in Ohio in general is it's going to be very impactful. So there's a lot of room on board for a lot of new contractors. So we look forward to having you a part of this organization, or if this organization is not that organization, join some organization so you can level up. So sorry, I just had to put that in there.
We love it. We love the plug.
Thank you. So Lisa, so what I put together here was a kind of a slideshow, very, very premature. These numbers are not exact numbers, it's just to paint a picture. A lot of my construction buddies out there will say very easily, hey Shaq, you skewed those numbers to get your point across, right? And I would say, I did. But the principle is still the principle is still the same. So on the second slide, slide 2, estimating strategy. So I kind of want to talk about Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 contractors. Tier 1 is general contractor who does work directly for the owners. As you can see in Northeast Ohio, especially with the NAMC organization and other organizations, we have been leaning on owners to get involved with we first and foremost, I think we have the best healthcare system in the country, and they are very involved and engaged with the diversity community, and with them being leaders and our partners, it has opened up the door to reach out to a lot of other corporate offices that are gradually coming in, so I'm grateful for that. But starting off, we have a Tier 1, which is general contractor to owner. Tier 2, we have construction manager. We have owner, construction manager, trades contractor. And then Tier 3, we have a construction manager, trades contractor to a sub-trade contractor. So there's benefits with each one of these, and I just want to kind of talk about those benefits. On the third page. So we have owner to general contractor. So the pros of this is it's most direct, faster pay, you control your own destiny, it's the less amount of capital out of your pockets, and it helps build office capacity, which is very important in the minority community. So we're not out there only representing ourselves, but we can build office staff.
Right.
The cons to this is strong management experience needed. It's not really it's a pro, but it's a con because that costs money. But there are strategic ways in how to, by being a general contractor dealing directly with the owner, that process can help pay for that staff. So this is I'm 40%. I'm 40% general contractors, 60% general trades. I like to have a balance, like the stock market kind of. You put all your marbles in one thing. It just don't work out like that. So another con is someone has to be able to forecast the next project all the time, be successful here. So each one of these scenarios you'll see is 3 scenarios. Each one is based off of $100,000. I tried to make it simple. So if you're a big guy, you can say 100, 500,000, $1 million. The concept is pretty much the same. So looking over this really quick, you'll see, so the subcontractor total is $50,290. The overhead and profit is $9,547,000. GC labor is $29,291. So one thing to really focus on is that GC labor costs, because we're also dealing with 9 weeks. Each project is based upon 9 weeks, $100,000. So over 9 weeks, their cost is $29,000. So this is dealing directly with the owner. So we want to let's go to the next slide. So at scenario 2, we have a Tier 2 contractor. So in this scenario, we have the owner, construction manager, and trades contractor. The pros are you are at the table where growth occurs. There's nothing like being inside that trailer with a bunch of veterans who've been in the business for a long time and learning. So this is a very important piece of growth for superintendents, things of that sort. This package allows you to build office capacity. It also allows you to taste management skills. So before you go to owners, this is a good area to go to because you can learn how to manage a smaller number of subs and trades before you graduate to go to owners.
I see.
Another, it allows you to be more aggressive because you can mark up material in sub trades. So this is important too, and this is a dying area that's being taken away from small business contractors. Here, when you're able to mark up your material, it kind of gives you some fluff. So you can be a little bit more aggressive on your approach of bidding different packages because now you have some money to lean on from marking up material. Now the cons of this is labor cost is about 75% higher than a general contractor. So if you are a small business owner and you take this approach, now instead of the $28,000 labor, now you're paying $48,891. So as you can see, the further and further you go away from the owner, the more and more the cost is. Also, sometimes you're only as good as those that manage in a project, so you're not really controlling your own destiny. A lot of times you have a CM who's controlling your destiny. Shout out to all the great CMs out there who do a great job helping us control our destiny in that way. Also, pay has to come from two sources now. So now you're not getting your check directly from the owner, you're getting your check from the construction manager, and now you're getting your check you're getting it from the owner, you get it from the construction manager, and that goes to the trades contractor. So that's two phases. And the last one, so we have owner, construction manager, general contractor with labor. Now this one here is where the diverse community kind of resides often. And this can be a great advantage if you know how to utilize this the right way. But sometimes it can be a disadvantage as well. So the pros are you are in the building. So that means you're there, you're on the job, other things can happen, you can grow. A great example is Sheila's here with the Federal Reserve, so I have one of these type of projects there. But also, it allows you to be there when other things come about. So this here can grow. I've seen institutions, I was talking to Lonnie one day, he was talking about how a contract grew from a $15,000 to $12 million a year contract. So this can be a great asset to grow.
It helps you build the relationship.
Definitely, it helps you build a relationship. You have, but also pay has to, so the disadvantages is this, and it's something very good to point out, I'll point out on the next page. So pay has to come from 3 different sources. So now it's a process when you get paid. The next one is it does not help you build office capacity. So that's one disadvantage with a lot of diverse companies. A lot of diverse companies aren't able to build office capacity, especially when you're in this area, unless you know how to utilize it. Because there are some people who are very artful with using this area here, and also, but this is the biggie. Labor cost is 250% higher than dealing with the owner. So the further and further you push the diverse company away, the more it costs to do business. We'll see that, and I threw that last one in there for all my CMs. So estimators are throwing darts at the wall. So, if you have to price this type of package, right? Where it's strictly labor. If the job go bad, it goes bad. You don't have anything else to anchor onto. So this is not an area that I advise that.
It's kind of high risk.
It's very high risk, very high risk. You don't have any, even with the general conditions over there, $1,491 in a union trade. That's a guy 3 days, so it doesn't help you very much. But to summarize everything we put together on the last page here. So scenario 1, $100,000 project, scenario 2, $100,000 project, scenario 3, $100,000 project. Each one of these projects based upon the 9-week schedule. The first one where you're dealing directly with the owner, the second one where you're dealing with a construction manager, and the third one when you're dealing with the construction manager, etc. But I want to point out the labor. the cost of doing business. This is important for any owners and why we push DEI so hard with owners, especially, I like that middle word, the equity aspect, right? So let's look at this real quick. So I want to make sure I'm being disciplined on time because everybody knows Shaq can get going sometimes. So let's look at this real quick. So the cost implication for this small business owner in scenario 1 is $28,000. Area 2 is $49,891. In scenario 3, it is $85,530. So the further you push that small business owner away from the owner, the more he has to pay. But what's even worse, let's take a look at this. The OH&P for the first scenario is $9,547. The OH&P for the second scenario is $11,086. And for the third one, it's $12,997. So you're talking about only a $1,000 difference, in those different scenarios. And the investment that you have to put into that is immensely different.
It sure is.
I can tell you that if there's a CM out there running a $100 million project, his payroll is probably only $85,530 for that month. And this is based on a 2-month schedule. So the more and more you push the small business, and most diverse companies live in that world, the more it costs us to do business. So that's why I love the numbers, and I think it's very important that that for any budding construction company to make sure they learn how to know their numbers.
Right. And so, Shaq, I know when you and I were talking earlier, you had talked about, really being able to strategize, putting these different scenarios into play in order to help scale your business.
Yes.
So if I'm a small business, and I'm just starting out, or I've been in the game for a minute, but I'm still small and don't have a lot of capacity in my back office, which one should I be considering?
I'm glad you asked. I'm fortunate enough to have been at each one of these scenarios. And initially starting out, I went to scenario 3, right? And the worst thing I could have possibly done, because it can work in your advantage now. If I did it over, I would do pretty well, because I would make sure that I'm out there more and I'm paying myself first, and then I'm able to pay the rest of my team. So that scenario can work for you. But the best area to go into is scenario number 1, right? But you have to be experienced to be in this area, right? And a lot of times, scenario 1, you've been around the industry, you understand the industry, you have relationships, things of that sort, and you are ready to deal with the owner. The cost capacity is a lot less. And you can kind of grow from that approach. And also you can grow staff, grow back office, things of that sort. But that's already a budding contractor. He's not all the way green. If you're all the way green, then most likely you're going to go to scenario 3. And the reward there is not the best. But also there should be some type of reward for, being in the industry for quite a while and things of that sort. But so I know I probably didn't give the clearest clearest answer, but it depends on, if you're a college kid starting your own business, then you're automatically going to scenario 1. If you're a tradesman starting your business, then you're probably going to go to scenario 3, because you can kind of work it from that advantage point. Make sense?
Makes sense. All right, well, I appreciate it. I think this is really beginning to help us set the stage. And so what I'd like to do is to have Justin and Lonnie come up. And so we'll go ahead and start talking about our Foundation Spotlight Group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shaq.
Great. Well, Lonnie, good to be with you.
It's good to be here with you as well, Justin.
Sun is shining. There's no snow in April, at least for today.
I wish it was warmer.
I know. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. So Lonnie Coleman serves as president and CEO of the Coleman Spahn Corporation right here in Cleveland, Ohio. The mechanical contracting firm has over 65 employees and a branch office in St. Louis, and is the state-of-the-art full-service contracting company. Coleman Spahn services range from installation and the service maintenance of building systems throughout the construction industry for both public and private sector clients. And Lonnie has been involved in really changing the skyline of our great city, Cleveland, Ohio, from projects such as Progressive Field. I still call it Jacobs Field,
I do too.
by the way, Lonnie. Quicken Loans Arena, now the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and a host of others. That's a really great list of projects, Lonnie.
A lot of hard work.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. So how'd you get started in the construction field?
Well, it's kind of funny. When I had graduated from high school, I went to Heights High School, plugged in my high school.
Yeah.
And I went to Kent State University.
Okay.
And I was majoring in history. I wanted to be a teacher. So I was at home, after school, and I was looking for a summer job. And so I have a friend of mine who was just starting in the electrical trade as an electrician's apprentice. And I was talking to him about, how do you get a job, in the trades, like, something like that. He suggested, well, the pipe fitters are hiring apprentices. And I said, well, what's a pipe fitter? And he said, well, they deal with pipes, but they don't deal, they're like plumbers, but you don't deal with toilets. And I said, okay. So I put an application with the pipe fitters in 1969, and I got accepted the following March. And I was looking for a summer job, and then the opportunity came up in March of the following year. And I went into the pipe fitters apprenticeship program, which was a 5-year program at the time. Did the 5 years in the apprenticeship program, and all through the process, I was constantly told that, hey, you're a pretty smart guy. You know what you're doing. You're doing the work of a journeyman. We're going to make you a foreman one day. Well, that day never came, for me. So I did the 5 years, worked 2 years as a journeyman, and decided that if I was going to have any upward mobility, I was going to have to do something myself. And so I hooked up with a sheet metal worker. We had met when we were building the campus for community college down the Woodland Avenue side, and started, putting in furnaces on the side and TVs and stuff like that. We decided that, hey, let's get together and create a business. And so we created a company. We pulled $10,000 together, $5,000 apiece, to be able to start the company. And lo and behold, it was hard work. We struggled in the very beginning, as most small businesses do when they get started. We were lacking a lot of things. Shaq just finished up talking about estimating. We didn't know how to estimate. We were guesstimating. And the guesstimate, just in our case, was, well, if we're going to go out and do these jobs, if we make a mistake and below the guesstimate, then we were out here doing those jobs ourselves. And it was a learning experience for us. We had this vision of being able to do some things on our own, and that if we were successful in doing that, then we'd reach back and bring some others with us. And we thought that was very important at the time. And in our case, it worked out. We were able to take that $10,000 and grow a company at its peak that was doing $40 million a year.
Wow.
We had 750 employees on our payroll, operating in 7 cities, 6 states, and Puerto Rico.
That's huge. That's a great.
It worked out for us.
That's an amazing success story, Lonnie. What really struck me about the origin of your success is there was a moment in your life where you said, I'm not going to keep waiting for someone to give me a shot. And I think that clicks for a lot of us in entrepreneurship. Whether you want to create your own business as an entrepreneur or be an entrepreneur inside of a large company. And when you think about your journey as an entrepreneur, Shaq talked a lot about some of the financial mistakes he made earlier on in his journey. Is there one moment that was a teachable moment for you in terms of failure, and how you took that moment and learned from it, and was able to see success over time?
Right. Like I said earlier, we started with $10,000, and we didn't know $10,000 was enough money to be doing construction. We just didn't know. So we got out there with the $10,000, and we would squeeze the eagle on that dollar. Because we didn't know. We wouldn't bid a job over $10,000. And then when we became successful at the 10,000 level, we moved it up to the $25,000 level. Then we would get projects at 25,000. And we said, well, you know, this is getting better. We're getting more comfortable with what we're doing. The biggest mistake that we made in this growth pattern of ours, we thought we could build houses. And if houses was strictly different from what we were doing as a mechanical contractor at the time. And we had been approached by a councilwoman about building some houses in our ward. And we said, okay, yeah, I mean, how difficult can it be to build a house? Well, we found out awful fast, and we did about 6 houses and didn't make any.
That'll tell you fast.
Oh, yeah, so it told us fast, and that was a financial mistake. And it taught us, stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Yeah.
And, you know, if you're gonna venture out, make sure you have the right people and the personnel around you to help you in that venturing out. And so we were fortunate in that we had some stability, and so we were able to take that hit and just, you know, move on to the next step.
Lonnie, what you're really talking about is the importance of doubling down on your strengths
Oh, yes.
and really focusing on what you're good at. And as you think about expansion, you know, there's a lot of talk about Atlanta being the mecca of Black business and Black entrepreneurship. What do you think were the key ingredients of the success that we've seen in a city like Atlanta? And what can we learn in Cleveland in order to grow the number of Black-owned businesses that we see in our own communities?
Well, one thing in Atlanta had a strong Black political organization in place. You had a series of mayors that came into power.
Maynard Jackson.
Mayor,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
and
Andy Young, yep.
and a lot of these guys. And then they repeated themselves when they could do it. Then you had, on top of the political base, you have a strong Black community that wanted to see some change and wanted to make some differences. So the political base, as they were starting to build, the airport was a real key for them. In fact, we had Ozan Construction, one of our local contractors, go down and was a part of the Atlanta airport and the construction that took place there. Yeah, which was, and Dominic did a very, very good job of that. So he was able to get down and participate. But the decision was made early on, if we're gonna build Atlanta, we're going to include as many people as we possibly can, and our minority community is going to be represented in the construction of what was taking place in Atlanta, you know, at the time. But they didn't try and pick everybody. They picked 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 small contracting organizations. H.G. Russell was probably the name organization that was selected. And they left it up to them. We're going to get you empowered. We're going to give you this opportunity to be able to do some good things. But you cannot forget from whence you come. We expect you to empower others. You grab some other sub-trades or subcontractors and make them a part of what you're doing. And we're going to grow this. And you're going to involve your community. You're going to hire tradesmen in that community. You're going to get people that work in your organization and management. And you're going to help them grow and develop. You can't take a crabs in the barrel mentality. You gotta be able to work together, you gotta be able to help one another. And they were quite successful in being able to do that. Now, was there pushback? You bet there was pushback, you know, from the majority community. No, we don't do business this way. But they were told, if you don't do business this way, you're not gonna do business in Atlanta.
What's preventing us from doing that right here in Cleveland?
Well, Cleveland is, it's a good city, you know, I've been here since I was 1, I'm 72 now, so it's been the city.
You're not 72, brother, come
Yes,
on.
I am. That's why I'm trying to find out where y'all find that young
The
blood
best
come
thing for the next one,
come
right?
on in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different, you know, I been here all my life, started the business here. We have programs and things that are in place to help small minority-owned businesses to be able to get somewhat of a foothold. But there are a lot of barriers out there still. You know, our politicians want to see inclusiveness in the community. I participated with 3 other minority contractors, and we raised $100,000 amongst our 4 companies to do a study. And did a memorandum of understanding, and most of the major players and owners signed up to that memorandum of understanding. And understand you got University Hospital represented here. They were one of the signers on it. And I think as an organization, they have made a super big difference in this community. you gotta get these majority businesses to step up and play their role. You gotta get them to help in removing some of the barriers, access to funding or financing, bonding, and things of that nature, because those are barriers. When you talk about the success of a minority business or a black business in this town, you need those things eliminated so they can start to be able to grow and develop their organizations. Now, there's still a lot of pushback on the majority side in our city.
Why is
so
that?
Well, if you let them get away with it and you don't put your foot down and just stop it, it's just going to continue, and it just makes it harder and harder to be able to do business. And point of fact is when we formed our first company in '76, the same battles we were fighting then, we're fighting those battles today. And you would think, 50 years later, things would have progressed and you would have seen some major changes in place. And I like to tell people that in the case of where we're at today at Coleman's Pond, we fell through the cracks. Because it's easy to say, well, what do you mean you can't make it? If Coleman's Pond can make it, you guys can make it, But if you got a few that fall through the crack that you can point to and try and discourage the others, I don't think that's good. I don't think it's good. And so it's difficult to do in Cleveland. We don't have the type of work that was taking place in Atlanta. But when we do have the opportunity, we got some things getting ready to take place today. And I tell people today, now is the time to be in a pretty good position with what's getting ready to take place in Cleveland. We have the Sherwin-Williams project. We got a new county jail. We got a new police headquarters. We got a lot of things that's getting ready to take place.
$541 million coming from the
city that's going to provide some opportunities. And we have to be ready, and we have to be prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that's coming. Right now in the city, when I talk about construction here, especially from a minority standpoint and specifically a black standpoint, you have three major guys in this town that, when I say major, and I'm not belittling anyone, when I say major, able to participate on major construction projects as a prime contractor. You don't have to be somebody's sub. We're good at building subcontractors, but we're terrible at building primes. When I retire, or Dominic retires, or Fred Perkins at McTech retires, who's there? Now, I love coming into Shaq's office and seeing all the great artwork and the things that he's got going on, because I look at him as a torchbearer. He's got the torch now. When you have Erin Kirkpatrick, she has the torch. They have to take this to the next level, and hopefully, there's more than 3 people. Because when we disappear from the industry, who's going to fill those roles? Who's going to fill that need? And I think we've done ourselves a disservice by not developing and growing more behind us to be able to step in and fill those roles.
How do we do that?
Well, one thing is when you get empowered, we've been empowered, okay? And I look at it as an empowerment circle. We're in that circle. It's up to us to bring others and expand that circle and grow it. And we have to do that by working with each other. I can't be jealous of Shaq's success. I can't be jealous of Arian's success. I have to relish in it and celebrate that success, because what happens is when you have successful contractors, they're hiring from the community, they're bringing people into the building trades, they're helping grow this development and grow this community, and they're growing their organizations as well. And if they're growing their organizations and they're participating in what's taking place in our community, at some point in time, if you got enough people in that circle, you've helped enough of them, then you can get rid of the acronyms MBE, FBE, SBE. You won't need them anymore, because you're full participants in what's taking place in the process of your city or organizations. So, and I think that's what we have to do. We have to adopt the mentality that if an opportunity is afforded me, then that opportunity is greater when I can share it with someone else and help them come along as well.
That's awesome, Lonnie. As of reflecting your comments, and I want to tee up this last question for you. Looking back in your life, if you could talk to yourself as a senior in high school, what would you tell yourself now, based on what you know throughout your career?
I tell myself, get a little building trades as fast as you can. I sent my son to college. He went to Tuskegee. He has a degree in aerospace science engineering. I said, Chris, that may be nice, but you really need to do it.
What a real way is, huh?
Absolutely. But no, when I graduated from high school, I had no clue, like most people, I was embarking on a career to be a teacher, okay? And my brother was a teacher. And when I got into the trades, I worked 9 months and doubled the money he had made. He worked all year. And I said, am I going the right direction here? No, I think it was a great choice that I made. Didn't know, because it could have went either way. In fact, when we first started the business, I had to go back to work to keep from losing my wife's house. And so what that kind of disaster that was.
Yeah.
But we were able to do it, go back, and then the company really took off. And it took about 5 years for us before we got that first real success. And we ended up with a contract at NASA that started out with 26 people that we really couldn't afford to even pay. But we were able to get it worked out. We built some really good relationships, and people supported us and they helped us. And we took that contract and grew it from a 26-man effort into a 200-people operation for $12 million a year for 15 years. And that was kind of the impetus that gave us the spark to be able to grow. So I think we did the right thing, and I think there's some timing about everything, and it was just the right time for us.
Well, Lonnie, thank you for your pearls of wisdom. Thank you for being such a role model to many of us in the community. And we're looking forward to seeing more of what you can do.
We're going to do our best.
Yeah.
We just want to see more people like Shaq and Arian and the others that are out there coming along, be able to hit some of the type of successes that we've been able to see in the 40 years that I've been out here.
Indeed. Always good to be in conversation.
Sure thing. Thank
Take
you very
care.
much.
Indeed.
Have a good day.
Yep.
Justin, stay there for a second.
Yeah.
Lonnie, thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't introduce Justin Bibb. And so Justin and I go way back.
Way back. 10 years.
More than that.
Yeah, maybe 11.
Yeah,
12, something
right.
like that. Yeah.
And so Justin is a proud Cleveland native and grew up in Mount Pleasant on the south side of the city. He has dedicated himself to rebuilding neighborhoods and making cities safer, healthier, and more resilient. And he is a leader in urban policy, and he serves currently as the Chief Strategy Officer of Urban Nova, a startup focused on solving the unique challenges faced by mid-sized cities, such as Cleveland. And he leads the national and Cleveland expansion of this accelerator, this model that educates leaders and entrepreneurs from Tulsa to Tampa on how to harness data to solve urban challenges. And so throughout Justin's career, he has partnered with business leaders and executives and community leaders such as myself, and really with helping to develop strategy, competitive intelligence, and all aspects of identification, data, evaluation, and execution. So it was a treat to have Justin here with us and to do that.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you.
I'll thank my cousin Leon for the moderation for today. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, so it was really a pleasure. Lonnie, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us. It was amazing, and it just goes to show you that you just have to start. And you're going to make some mistakes, but you can recover and continue to build your business. And so now what I'd like to do is, as our panel is coming up and getting ready to get seated, tell you a little bit more about NAMC. We have a partnership with Friendly and Settlement House called Rosie's Girls that focuses on 6th through 8th grade young ladies to expose them to construction and welding trades. And that happens in the summer. We also have a program with Youth Opportunities Unlimited called CREW. And CREW is really focusing on young people 18 to 24, exposing them to construction, helping them to get certification so that they can begin working immediately as they are on their way to pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs in the construction industry. Lastly, you all know about Level Up because this is what we're doing today. And we have one more program called Flip This Business. And this is where we have the opportunity to pick a business, renovate their space, and provide coaching and capacity building to build their business. And so if that speaks to you, we'd love to have you. Membership is available to corporations, to small businesses, to one-man shops. We are looking for you, rather it's commercial, rather it's union, rather it's residential. We would like for you to join us because together we can make a difference. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chris House, who has over 30 years of IT experience. Chris is president of House Solutions, a technology firm whose team has more than 30 plus years of experience helping small businesses and medium-sized businesses with hardware, software, training, staffing, consulting, and cybersecurity. He currently serves as the NAMC board secretary. So Chris, come on and take it away.
Thank you, Lisa, for those kind words. It's a pleasure to be here. And I want to thank our studio audience and our online audience for joining us today. Today we actually have an esteemed panel with us, right? Some industry experts that's going to give us some golden nuggets on actually how to understand your numbers, right? And we all know that whether you're in construction, small business, or what have you, knowing your numbers are important. And if you don't know your numbers, pretty much what's going to happen is you might actually have to pick up another type of job, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that and that you take some of these nuggets and some of the advice from our esteemed panelists. So today, our panelists is made up of all aspects of the construction business. We have an owner, we have a contractor, a procurement services officer, and facilities person with us today. So I want to introduce, on my left here, Matt Ambrose. Matt Ambrose is Director of Design and Construction Services at Sodexo. Matt's career in construction and operations spans over 36 years with responsibilities in project development, sales and marketing, customer satisfaction, safety, quality delivery, total P&L responsibility, staff development, operations, and strategic planning with a portfolio of over $2 billion of executed projects. Matt has held positions as a project manager, senior project manager, director of sales and marketing, director of operations, president of general contracting firm, and past president of NAIOP of Greater Cleveland. You know, Matt doesn't do a whole lot, so just
That's just before lunch.
Okay. What a bio. Next is Earl Bumgarner. Earl currently serves as a facility manager for Metro Health Hospital. Earl manages the buildings and systems for the east side footprint of Metro Health, including 2 hospitals, Cleveland Heights and Brecksville, and multiple ambulatory sites. He has also owned a plumbing company that was union affiliated and worked on many projects in Northeast Ohio, along with his father. Earl successfully completed an apprenticeship through Plumbers Local 55 in 1993 and gained his journeyman license. He did not stop there, but went on to obtain his master plumbing license through the city of Cleveland and a state plumbing license as well to do business as a contractor in and around the state of Ohio. Thank you, Earl. Next we have is Sheila Liska. Sheila is the manager of procurement services at Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. She is responsible for overseeing the procurement of goods and services for Cleveland, Cincinnati, and the Pittsburgh offices. Her responsibilities include implementing strategic procurement objectives, lead Federal Reserve System procurement initiatives, working with internal stakeholders on their procurement forecast and supplier development and diversity. Thank you, Sheila. Last but not least is Shakori Davis. Shakori is president of Next Generation Construction and currently is involved in projects at University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic, Cleveland Metropolitan School District, Metro Health Facilities, and the City of Cleveland. Davis is also a board member for NAMC, Northern Ohio Chapter, and VP of CAA. Shakuri, or Shaq as we fondly call him, also serves as an executive board member for NAMC Northern Ohio chapter, as well as serving as a community leader on multiple boards. Welcome, Shaq. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get right to it, right? And truly, I want this to be a discussion, a conversation. I don't want to interrogate you. So please, relax. And we are going to really, truly, I hope, educate and inform our audience. So the first question, and feel free to answer. Tell us more about yourself, and I'm going to start with Matt here. Tell us about yourself, your company, and why the topic of do you know your numbers is important to you.
Well, thank you. And good afternoon. Obviously, there is a long list there, and when it comes to building those type of lists of accomplishments and so forth, sometimes you get pretty robust on what you want to say. But my background started very early on. My father is an electrician by trade, and then eventually oversaw all the skilled trades at General Motors for 38 years. So a lot of that knowledge came home. And growing up, my friend, good close friend, his father owned a steel erecting business and crane rental business. So we were setting steel and running cranes before we had driver's license. So you learn a lot of this stuff growing up. And believe me, one thing I learned is you don't leave dad's tools laying around. And in that strict Italian family, you found out the hard way when you did that. So a lot of that education and so forth came from hands-on. And a lot of others, I see that hands-on, learning the trade, understanding the trade, and understanding how others try to get away with things. Okay, so you can recognize it, you can see it, and you're very educated in regards to looking at a project and understanding how it goes together. So the numbers, how the numbers work. If I don't get involved with the numbers daily and throughout the day, I'm missing my job. Okay, that's everything that I do. I'm either checking bids, proposals, or I'm looking at my project management staff and how they're managing the budgets of what's already in place. So the numbers are very important and they're critical. Running a construction company, it's very critical to balance those books. It's very critical to pay your subcontractors. Otherwise, how are they making their payroll? How are they going to be back when you need them? So I can't say enough in regards to the numbers and how important they are to me day in and day out. And even with that hands-on approach, I still let my wife handle the stuff at home.
All right, thank you, Matt. Earl?
So, graduating from what I call the best high school,
Warrensville Tigers. Hey.
Went away to college, and my dad, I didn't understand the value of an education, so my dad chose for me, since I didn't understand the value of his hard-earned money, that I had to go into the apprenticeship program. And then my dad and I got out of the apprenticeship program. My dad and I went into business. But here's what I learned, and this is why knowing your numbers is so important. We grew faster than our capital. And so we stretched ourselves so thin that all it took was a heavy weight to dismantle us. And so it's so important to, we had grown to over 40 plumbers, and we were in every footprint in the city. But when you don't know your numbers, when your team is not built to help you with your budgets, when you don't know who you need giving you the right advice, you just go and you grow, and before you know it, you borrow money that you really can't repay. And so if you know your numbers, you know what lane to stay in as you grow consistently. Because many times you can grow too fast. And when you grow too fast, and then it presents failure at the end of the road. So, starting out as a tier 3, Shaq, that was a great presentation. Starting out as a tier 3 contractor, where most of your subcontractors start out tier 3 because we have no other way to go. But the problem with that is that you go into business with your last paycheck, and you don't have a relationship with the bank, and you just out there. and you get into some waters you can't navigate. So that's why it's important now, now that I'm on the other side of the fence, I have so much peace now. My wife says I'm a very nice person now. But I'm in a position now to be able to help others who are now coming, and I can help mentor them into being successful, so that they do know their numbers and they can get in slow and grow. So
That's key. Especially, I love the piece where grow slow and consistent. Everybody in today's generation, in today's world, you want to do it fast. I need it now. I need a McDonald's. I'm going in the next 5 minutes. But there is something to that slow, steady growth where you know what you're doing and you're able to finance it. So thank you so much for that, Earl. Sheila?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sheila Lishka. I am with the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, as Kristen mentioned. I've been with the bank for it'll be 5 years, so I'm not from Cleveland originally, and I came from manufacturing and doing raw materials. So really, working at the Fed has exposed me a lot to the construction industry. We do a lot of construction at the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. And why the numbers are so important to me, especially being in procurement and working with suppliers, especially at the Federal Reserve Bank, we're really looking, supplier diversity is so important to the core of what we do. And we want to make sure, number one, we're including diverse suppliers in the procurement process, but we also want to award contracts to diverse suppliers. So understanding those numbers so that you're competitive is really important, right? We're committed to increasing our diverse spend this year specifically, but obviously we want to continue to increase that diverse spend. And we can't do that if diverse suppliers don't understand the numbers or the bids don't come in competitive where we can award a contract. So for us, that's why it's really important, a very important topic.
Okay, thank you so much. And if anyone, any organization knows anything about numbers, I would think it's the Federal Reserve. So, I think our country depends on it, right? Thank you so much, Sheila, for those nuggets. Shaq?
So I'm going to have to one-up you guys and say the best high school ever is East Technical High School. I just want to throw that out there right down the street here. But I think that I can kind of share the sentiment of everybody else on the panel in regards to why the numbers are important. And I would just add one thing to that. The numbers are important to me because it's important to them. And I believe that in any business, if you help the person who's giving you business win, then you'll win too. So if it's important to them, it's important to me. That's why it's at the top of my list.
Sure. It's the lifeblood, and kind of stepping back to some of the comments you said there. If we don't look at mentoring or bringing, as you have at your staff here, an intern that was with us for quite some time, then we're losing ourselves as well. And we really look at it as a crawl, walk, run.
Sure.
We've got to do a crawl, walk, run. And we're mentoring other contractors now that really become the stable that you can depend on and you can go to because they're learning the process and they learn to get their numbers in line so that we can make those partnerships or those memorandums of agreement. So it really is fruitful when it comes together.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So feel free to answer this as you see fit there, but based on your experiences, what is one key component that all businesses need to garner more contract work and why? Just one thing.
Relationship?
Patience.
Okay.
I look at a relationship, and I'll jump in there again.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just to be somebody's friend or somebody's go-to guy. It's the dependability of that individual to understand the need and the direction of what I need as an owner's rep to produce for our owners. And in those moments of need, and they come up every day, every minute. I think yesterday I said I was on my 20th Monday in a row. You got to have those go-to people. So it's a relationship building. And I want people to make money but I'm not gonna get gouged at the same time.
Sure. Well, I say patience because in facilities, we become the entry-level doorway for contractors to come in. We introduce to construction, or we have smaller bits to take on in facilities. And then when I say patience, I mean that be patient in that lane. You can grow into the other lanes, but you make relationships coming in the door, accepting smaller projects. And then you create the mechanisms, as you know, Lonnie was on there and had a chance to work for Lonnie. You get somewhere, Shaq talked about it, and you stay there for a couple of years. And you got the door on a $10,000 contract. But you just have to be patient enough to ride it out to get to the next level.
And I would say, on top of what they've all said as well, but just to make sure that you are resourceful so that someone, one of your customers can call you and you're the subject matter expert in that field. And it's to help build those relationships, as they said. That's also really important. And being responsive, I know that's so small, that goes to the relationship part too, but being responsive and that subject matter expert to build those relationships will ultimately lead to hopefully more contracts.
And I think you hit something that was expert in the hospital realm. You just can't come work in a hospital. We're not like working in a construction building. You have to know how we operate. We deal with so many mechanisms, infectious control. We deal with so many aspects of construction. You have to be knowledgeable. So we just can't call a person that is, hey, I'm a guy that can build a wall. There's so much into building that wall for us. So we're looking for people who are knowledgeable in that field as well.
I would probably say a good team. A lot of times, a lot of times we kind of have that mindset that, we are the owner, the individual, that, we are our company, but I'm here with you guys today, so, and I'm here comfortably. So I couldn't do that without a great team. So I think that's probably, to really level up, since we're using that terminology, you gotta have a good team around you.
Agreed. So all those are excellent points. And one of the things that really stands out is you want to make your boss look good, right? Whether you have your own construction firm, whether you work for someone, as a internal, entrepreneur, but you always want to make your boss look good. And then guess what? Those might lead to more contracts and maybe promotions, right? So we definitely want to keep those in mind, and so thank you all for those nuggets. We talk about how crucial the numbers are to run your business and to win contracts. What are the other key business traits that you look for in business owners that will keep them on speed dial?
I say reliability. In a hospital, I'm not always looking for, our team is not always looking for the cheapest person. We're looking for the most reliable. Who can I call at 12 o'clock when our HVAC units are down and they're going to respond? Responsiveness is key to success in our industry. And so that also pushes a lot of smaller tier vendors away because they can't respond to us at that level because they don't have the infrastructure to respond to us. And that's why we typically will go to a Cold & Spine or Arian or Shack because they have the infrastructure to. That doesn't mean you can't get there, but that's what we're looking for I know it from a facility standpoint, is who can I press that number? Who's gonna be here?
Yeah, it's be there, but it's to have the experience, so that you have the comfort level that the need at the moment or in the future is gonna be met. And without it being a problem because they're not the professional or they don't know the environment and the way that business has to be conducted. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say at least for the Federal Reserve Bank, it's all the things that they've said, of course. And then understanding the business, so where we're at, you have to be fingerprinted in background checks. So if we need you, you can't just bring in anyone. So that's just understanding our business and how we need to operate so that we can have this successful partnership.
Great answers. So it's only one answer for me to kind of leave you guys with is know your numbers. So budgeting, I think that is, that's my bread and butter. I do work for all three of these firms here, and budgeting is something that I would like to say that I am a go-to company for numbers, and a lot of that comes from having great failures, because when you do fail, whether it be not getting a project, you still have the data, you have the history, you have how you lost, you have how you can improve, you have something you can work on and can kind of tweak and make it better and better. So there's a lot of value in losing and also winning. So I would think that if you can start, and I think Sheila hit the nail on the coffin, start knowing these facilities, and start taking shots at it and getting the spreadsheets together and keep that data in there. It's like that old grill. You know how you got, you don't go get a new grill, you go get that old saturated grill, with the sauce on it, So you got to start creating that from a numbers standpoint. So I know that was a long version, but for the go-to aspect, the numbers.
All right, thank you so much. Were you saying something, man?
Well, I was thinking, as you're speaking that way, and as we all come together with hospital work, it's very key to think that a lot of people know their numbers, and I got the low number. Well, that low number is not going to get the project done because they don't really know their numbers in regards to what it is that's necessary to get the job done. So it's more to it than just saying, I know my numbers, I got the best number, And I'll disqualify a lot of that because it's too low, or they don't have infectious control, or they don't have life safety involved too. So it's to know more than just being a low number.
Well, I think you hit something, Matt, is that prior to bidding to us, we already know the number.
Good point.
So if we know
We do have a budget.
we have a budget,
Yeah,
right?
we do, yeah.
So if you're 20% lower than our budget, you set up a red flag, or 25%, and we're saying you're missing something. So don't think we're depending on you to dictate our budget. We already know where we need to be
Right.
and why we need to be there. So that's very important.
And to your point, if you don't understand what the requirements are, don't be afraid to ask, especially obviously in my role. We're here to help you along that process. And it's not a weakness to ask for more questions or clarity. That's just part of the procurement process. So don't provide a bid without fully understanding what you're bidding on.
I love that. That's it. So what you're saying, esteemed panelist, is whatever your strategy, whether it's public company, private company, hospital, Federal Reserve, what have you, first of all, you need to understand what are some of the expectations to working there, right? If it's a medical or health facility, you need to make sure that you have qualified workers that can do the duct work, right? Or understand some of the medical and health challenges, some of the fingerprinting that you need, so some of those different things that you need there. So really what you're saying is understanding your numbers also mean understanding your customer. Right? So that's like almost your customer avatar. And so in many cases, we don't understand our customer.
Yes.
And we just, hey, this is what I do, and they're going to take it. Well, maybe not so much, right? So thank you. You know what? You're educating me. I appreciate it. So what are some ways that smaller businesses and contractors can get better prices on some goods and services similar to like a buying collaborative? Why is this important?
Well, I can answer that one. I think that that goes back to one of the things that Mr. Ambrose said over there earlier is relationships. I believe that the more and more relationships that you have, the more and more competitive that you become. So I think that between NAMC and other organizations, there's a lot of events like this, not only with owners, but also we should have those with vendors, as you spoke about. Also, we should have those with all type of suppliers, especially if you're living in that tier 2 world where that becomes very important. The more material that you have on a project, and a lot of times, like you have friends like Lonnie and other people who can make those introductions. And when they make those introductions, I have to give a shout out to Mid-Continent Construction. Because starting off, I was very fortunate in that regards. I used to work for them, and they gave me a lot of their relationships. And that was huge. And those relationships did business with me because they brought me there. So that's where Matt spoke of earlier about mentorship and things of that sort. And it's very important to continue to build upon that so that the work that others done to help you get in the door, don't fall to the wayside. So goes back to relationships and continuing to build those relationships.
Great.
So you can become more competitive.
And as you do that, and you work towards maybe a master service agreement, an MSA, you are then in a pool that you understand the value of the amount of work that you would get within a year, right? So then you can go build some relationships with your suppliers saying, hey, this is the quantity of what I'm going to need. I need some price breaks in order to meet that because I'm going to bring you more quantity instead of one-off projects.
I got me a good nugget there. I like that.
And I think, just like you said, it makes you more competitive, right? The more leverage that you have with your suppliers, building those relationships, then you can pass some of those savings on to your customer.
Sure.
Which will then just continue to add value down the supply chain.
Build that relationship.
And I think vendors also, as a sub, I create a relationship with my vendors, and I let them walk with me as I'm bidding projects, and they were right there with me, that they attached a salesman to me, and we created a relationship. So I didn't pay what this guy was paying. Here's where I am. And so I think that's very important that you go and make yourself available to introduce yourself and create relationships as well. But I also think you gotta be mentored into those relationships. And I think you have to put, one of the things that I've learned is put your ego aside and go and turn yourself with someone and build on their relationships. And you talked about that, and that's something that you did, and it's helped to make you successful, is that it's okay to be Robin, you don't have to be Batman.
Agreed.
Very good, very good. Thank you, everyone. Bloomberg and other surveying bodies state that cash flow, or the lack thereof, accounts for the failure of more than 82% of startup businesses. What constitutes a strong business, and what strategies can you give owners, especially during a global pandemic?
I would say at least, for where we work and, working with, our suppliers, we do try to create these strong relationships with, which we've talked about. But just being transparent and honest with what is happening, either with your business or within your industry, so that we can it just helps with that relationship. But then don't be afraid, especially like during a pandemic, don't be afraid for asking for work, asking for maybe different pricing terms, maybe a 45 go down to 30, and just working. But those relationships matter in order to even ask those things, right? But because it takes time too from a business perspective to try to go out and source new suppliers. So we already have suppliers. We want to help you succeed as well. So just asking or being honest with what you need, and asking for more work if that's needed as well. Because if we didn't know you maybe had capacity, those types of things, so that we can work with you.
Sure.
And I think as a small African American, so we talk about minority contractors, your credit rating is always in jeopardy because you're just moving money around, you're not being able to pay your bills on time, sometimes because you're slow pays. And one of the disadvantages in the minority community is access to funding. And there's been great strides to help minority contractors overcome credit score. bonding, but you have to protect your credit, because you gotta be able to go into a bank or into a financial institution and negotiate money to keep you going. And that's what brings us to a disadvantage so many times. We don't have access to capital. And when we do get capital, we're taken advantage of by paying higher interest rates than some of our peers. So the key to this is, Sheila, as you said, how do I go in and negotiate? I need to be paid in 2 weeks. And not be ashamed to say, I need to be paid in 2 weeks or 30 days, and having that happen so you can keep your capital going to keep you afloat. So I think that's very important, negotiating your terms and not working on the terms that we just automatically put a nomenclature there for you.
Sure, so you come to the table with that, then you gotta say, okay, if I can get paid in 2 weeks or 30 days, what is the advantage the owner is gonna get for that? What's the discount that's gonna come with that? That's what's gonna be looked for.
Sure.
I think one of the key things to look at too, and dealing with larger organizations, payment processes sometimes lag in regards to what the commitment is. So as a small business, ensure that you have your staff following up on your accounts receivable. Because at times, you know, it may have been a pay app that was submitted that something wasn't correct, or it wasn't done timely, and it gets lost in the system. Make sure you're always on top of your accounts receivable.
And that goes back to the team, Matt.
Yeah.
I think so many times small businesses wear various hats, and you spend more time working in the business than on the business.
Right.
So you have to have that person who is helping you along and say, hey, you know, we missed this $100,000 payout, or hey, they're a little late, can you go reach out to them? And if I need to come reach out to them, I will, but you go ahead and take the legs. I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
Those are all great points. But you noticed that you said Bloomberg, and then the money, you know, started.
When you back up, yeah.
Right. You spoke of the pandemic. You know, I think with any business, there's a season for everything. You know, and every season isn't to make money. You know. I think Matt also spoke about, okay, if you're asking, or Earl led it off about, you know, ask faster pay and things of that sort. And Matt brought up the point of, yes, okay, but what's the owner's return, right? Mm-hmm. So you always got to think about how, you know, how this person across from you can win, but you realizing that when they win, you win as well. Right. You know, so it goes back to the teamwork mindset, and also having a good strategy and plan for your business. This season might not be to make money if you're in a pandemic. It might be build your infrastructure. Maybe you're going to lose a little to gain a little bit next year. You know, you got to have a strategy. You got to know your numbers, and then that way, you know, in the long run, you'll be in much better shape. And once again, that comes from, you know, having good relationships with people who've done it, like Lonnie. I've had great conversations about him, and you know, me and him are both really excited about, you know, next year. Like, well, it's only April. It's only April. You know, we're excited about next year.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it's a season for everything.
Understand. So what it sounds like everybody is saying is really, okay, so let's say I want to reduce payment terms. So what's the value add? So what if we're negotiating, right? And as salesmen and owners and organizations often do, because it is a push-pull, right? So if we're negotiating, what other value adds can you give me if I'm doing, instead of net 30, net 15, right? So maybe that means I'm going to paint a wall, right? Or whatever that owner feels to be of value. So it sounds like a relationship needs to be there, right, for the person you're working with or working for. And then how do we add value if I'm asking for something?
But I think too, Chris, you got to also go back to what you said is know your numbers, because don't give up everything in desperation. So you don't let me tell you and take your money. You have to know I can't go to 3%. I can't give you more than 3% discount. That's why you got to know your numbers, because you go in there and give away the whole farm.
Yeah, your profit margin's gone.
Right.
Not just your profit margin, everything.
Unless
You
you're
were desperate to get paid.
Yeah, that's
Know
very
your
true.
numbers.
That's very true. Thank you, Earl. Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay, currently, I do everything in my business. How can I use an estimator or other workers for helping quote upcoming projects? Where do I find that skill set? Not all at once, right?
I can answer that one. So, actually, that's a very good question. It is, and it's a challenge. So I'm fortunate because I am an estimator, so everybody on my team is an estimator. Everybody who works in my office, they learn how to estimate. Now, there is levels of estimating, right? But when you have a good team around you, you know, each person handles, you know, a different level of estimating. So I think that this is something that really needs to be taught early on. It's not something that you necessarily have to go to college for. It's more so, you know, putting in the trailer, mentor-protege relationships, things of that sort. And I think that owners are very, you know, interested in the, you know, ACE mentorship programs, you know, things of that sort. So I think we need to be a little bit more direct with the soft skills of the construction business, because we're hardcore on labor, right? But that small art, you know, of estimating needs to, you know, happen early on in most people's careers. So I think, and here's another good scenario, sorry. Another good thing is maybe companies can kind of sponsor. If you find somebody who might be of good value and you think that they have great Excel skills and things of that sort, maybe you pay for their education. You know, for, I mean, now that's being really proactive. You know, you pay for their education, and at some point, you know, they can bring that skill, you know, over to your company. So I think it's an early on investment, and it's something you got to kind of be more intentional and proactive to help you.
Real positive. The ACE program is one that we participate in heavily. And I have an ACE past student who's at Kent State that is an intern with us now for his second year. And I'll chase that guy down to hire him when he comes out of school, because he's a great nugget, a great kid. But that program is truly one that the community needs to embrace, because all walks of life are there, and they're not all going to college. They're all there to get into the construction trades. And I really see, you know, as our long history in the business, the tradesmen needs to also be supplied through these programs as well, because I don't know how it's going, but I see less and less of them being available coming out of high school.
I think a lot of it, they've taken a lot of the programs out of high school, which was a pipeline to the trade schools. They had them, but I think in estimating, as a sub, there's estimating software that you can invest in. And sometimes you look at that software and say, oh, I can't afford it. You can't afford not to. Mm-hmm. But I think, though, that part of that as well is a tradesman who can be both, who have had field experience,
right.
And then take the digital experience and merge them together. You have a phenomenal estimator. I know when I started estimating at a young age, I would go to my dad and I say, hey, you know, why are my jobs losing? Your jobs are winning, Dad, my jobs are losing. And he said to me something that I've always held on to. He says, because you're bidding the jobs based on your ability.
Wow.
And I didn't recognize the value in that, was that my hours was based on how good I was, but I wasn't basing it on the norm. So when I began to bring that in, it helped. So I say that to help you in your estimating into a small company. Don't base it on you. Base it on an average.
Sure.
Begin to study that estimating skill, and then go and intern yourself in a company and learn how to estimate, because you'll find the ACE program is an excellent program. And also there's that guy that works out in the field on your team that may come in the evenings and can begin to learn estimating, and in a couple of years and explain the value to coming in and working on their time. Say, listen, I need you to give me 2 hours of your time, 3 hours of your time a week I'll teach you estimating, and we'll collaborate that with your field experience, and then watch you grow and elevate to the next level in a few years. I think
All are good nuggets. I like those nuggets. Good stuff.
Well, I feel that I'm a really good estimator. I really do. Have experience and so far, I really do, but you know what? I'll never put an estimate out without having somebody else look at it.
Agreed. Yes.
You know, I gotta have somebody else look at it. What did I miss, or what am I overcompensating for?
Yes.
Because I don't know what I'm looking at. So that's one thing I've always done.
Okay, all part of having a good team, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. And so I am getting a high sign, so this will probably be our last question here. Oh, we have 5 minutes. Okay. So what single piece of advice could you give business owners that don't know their numbers, and where should they start?
I think it's probably already been said, or it has been said, but just that mentorship. I mean, if you don't, you have to be honest with where your weaknesses are and find someone that can help offset those weaknesses. But a mentorship is going to be really important. And there's other, nonprofit organizations that help small businesses, and that's all they do. So again, don't be afraid to ask for the help that you need. You need a team to do it. We all need to ask for help in order to succeed.
Collaboration is everything. I mean, the mentorships, the embracement of the seniors that are around that have been there and seen it is invaluable. That's where you need to start. That's where you need to embrace. You just can't go throw a shingle out and expect to just be bringing in cash. It's the experience, but it's in the collaboration and joining organizations like this. So it's tremendous.
And don't be ashamed to go back to school.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to a four-year university. You may go and connect up to maybe a Tri-C or a Lakeland that has estimating classes, and go take the classes.
Sure.
And make that sacrifice so you can actually learn how to be successful in your business.
And it may not just be estimating, it may be running a business,
Yeah.
Being business savvy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was out of school for 10 years before I went back and did my master's degree. And that helps tremendously, understanding and looking at things differently.
Well, I want you guys to remember those 3 answers, so I'm going to defer. Great answers. Great answers.
Those are good. And
Very good answers.
And truly what I hear is collaboration, mentorship, sponsorship, lifelong learners. And I remember, I don't even know who told me, I would just say my great-grandpappy, but I don't even know if I remember him. But one of the things that they said was the day that we stop learning is the day that we die, right? And so I really, even as a kid, remember I was going to learn something new every day, right? And so, you're never too smart. You never know everything, right? I think my mother used to always say, what you don't know could build 2 or 3 other worlds, right? So I think that we want to make sure that we're constant, lifelong learners, and we keep ourselves open to learning more.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I am going to leave this area here, but I want to thank Shaq, I want to thank Sheila, Earl, and Matt for really taking the time out of their schedules, because you don't get paid for this, right? It really, we want to thank you for really just investing in our region and the community and in NAMC. And so I'm going to leave it up to Lisa, but I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I tell you, this was a great session. I want to thank Lonnie Coleman for sharing his life story and nuggets. I want to thank all of our esteemed panelists, and I want to thank Shaq for putting this together, because this was very informative. I think this had something for everyone. Our next session will be May 27th, and the topic is leveling up, contracting with government entities. What do you need to know? I want to encourage you to consider joining NAMC Northern Ohio chapter and tell a friend. Please follow us on social media, and we hope to see you May 27th. We would also like to thank our sponsors for this event, First Energy Foundation, and our own Next Generation Construction. We'd like to thank our technology host, Low Key Entertainment, and the Candy Lady Store, who has helped provide some gifts for our panelists. We'd like to thank her. If any of you are interested in sponsoring an event or working with us on our programming, please contact me or Arian Kirkpatrick. And we'd like to thank you again for being here and joining us, and we'll see you May 27th.